Alright, so I recently finished playing through Theatrhythm Final Fantasy on Switch, and right away, like the title says, we really need more games like this. Like, when a rhythm game really hits, it blows up. I mean, look at DDR and Guitar Hero from the 2000s. And I just find it nuts that Square is the only company to really try this with game soundtracks with this, and I believe they did one for Kingdom Hearts as well. I mean, imagine how good a Sega one would be. Although Sega at least does the Project Diva games, Hatsune Miku. So I guess they have a little bit of an excuse. They're putting out something similar. But especially look at Nintendo. I mean, you see people freaking out that they finally did their own music app and getting into all these in-depth discussions about what soundtrack they're going to be drip-fed this week. I mean, there's probably a handful of Nintendo franchises independently that could, put out a game like this and potentially blow up, let alone if they did, a crossover Smash-like thing with it. Part of what I really liked here, though, and I'm not saying this is even a requirement for these types of games, but is how they sort of tried to fit some of the Final Fantasy elements into it, to particularly in how you get rewards and collectibles. Because, you'll have your little team of chibi Final Fantasy characters, but they level up and obtain skills and will do battles in the background, and when they defeat an enemy, you get a collectible normally. And you, of course, have different skills that change up what exactly you may get, or, certain rates, or, obviously you're going to have some skills in that are more effective against certain enemies and bosses. You have two gameplay variants, too, where one enemies come to you, and another you come to your enemies. And that also kind of switches up what your best team might be. And they give you, 5 slots to sort of create your parties, with some being more effective in certain scenarios than others. It was all just a really cool extra step that I really appreciated. It overall doesn't affect your score. It can kind of affect your passing and failing a level, because you do lose health if you miss a note, and certain skills kind of affect that too. But hey, that's another scenario if you're on a tougher song to have, a team built for that, with, healers and higher health from defense units and that sort of thing. I don't know if there was always 2 gameplay types. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if I look back and, because I know there's a couple Theatrhythm games, if, one had one gameplay style, one had another, and they eventually put them all together. Although, once again, I could be completely wrong about that, just making shit up. Overall, they're not that different. One will have sort of a static board with 4 locations the notes will appear on, and then the other will be a bit more dynamic and will show your notes, anywhere in that area. And, we'll go up and down along the way. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. Hopefully you can see the background gameplay. This is the type that I'm talking about right here. And I actually did prefer this type overall. I feel like it was, slightly more unique. And honestly, it just flowed. I feel like I performed better in these kinds of levels. I will say the balance overall is a little weird. Like, there's some games that I feel like go pretty heavy in one and you only get a couple songs in the other style. So I guess I wish that was a little better. The song count in this game is gigantic. Like I said, I'm used to Guitar Hero or Rock Band where they had, maybe 100 songs. And I did pick up the Project Diva they have on Steam, and that has 200-ish songs. This game was in the 300s, I believe. And if you include DLC, I think it gets close or maybe even surpasses 500, which is nuts. I will say Project Diva, because I never completed it, but I feel like it might be longer overall, even with a decent amount less songs, because there's a lot of shorter songs here, which honestly I generally preferred. I think that's just a personal taste, though. That's the way I've always been with music. Ever since I was even a kid, like, I just don't have the attention span for it, for whatever. Like, you have your introduction, your chorus, your main verse, do the chorus and main verse twice, and then I pretty much check out. I know a lot of songs do it a third time, and they'll have, a solo or ending. But like I said, I kind of check out earlier. Unless, it's a song that's, really hitting me well. That's once again, though, not to say that there isn't, some longer songs. There are a few that for me kind of dragged on. I don't know if no lyrics in the majority of the songs had anything to do with them feeling like they dragged on a little more than usual. Because I generally felt like the no lyrics was kind of a strength, especially when you're, hearing all these songs for the first time, to have that, one less thing to focus on and really appreciate the different beats in that. My biggest complaint with this game, no city ruins from Nier Automata in the DLC. I mean, that was almost a deal breaker on the DLC. Luckily, they did throw in Hill of Radiant Winds, which is, an equivalent, I guess, from Nier Replicant. But for me, city ruins and Weight of the World were not optional from Nier Automata. So that one hurts a little, I'll admit. Now, I did a little tier list here for you. My favorite to least favorite soundtracks from what I played in Theatrhythm. I think a couple of the soundtracks were missing. Or I'm sorry, the spinoffs is what I meant to say. And I did this before doing the DLC, because they did actually have Final Fantasy 16, but it was all DLC. So that's not on here. I would probably put that probably above. I feel like it was pretty close to 15, and I think it was a little better. So that's probably about where I would put it. But yeah, Final Fantasy VI was a pleasant surprise, because I didn't think anything would beat 7 for me, especially considering the only mainline games I've played are 7 Remake and Rebirth. So the fact that a game I haven't played was able to surpass them, some of these, great songs I, heard from those games and heard, even years ago from when Cloud got into Smash, I think that says a lot. And it's like, honestly, I don't like turn-based games. I really love, what they did with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I really want to see them do it with other Final Fantasy games. Before, my top choice may have been 8 or 10. But honestly, hearing 6's soundtrack, I think 6 might be my new one I would like to see the most. And the DLC, too, was honestly a great promotion for other Square IP for me. Because there are some of these series I just never really looked into, but then it was like, when you hear, how great World Ends With You's soundtrack was, and Mana, wound up looking into them, and they weren't turn-based, they're a bit more action-based. I wound up picking up some games in those series, and it also sort of led me to find Star Ocean, which is another Square IP that wasn't in this game, but I'm guessing because it's developed outside of Square, so maybe there's some, weird licensing stuff or whatever. But yeah, I was checking out and getting some more Square series recently, thanks to this DLC. Something that kind of surprised me too is that I kind of thought, because presentation-wise, I feel like Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default, and even Triangle Strategy all seem sort of similar. But then I really liked Octopath's soundtrack, but I didn't really like Bravely's. So that was kind of interesting. Probably without the doubt, the one in the entire game that I'm the most mixed about is Chrono Trigger. Because that was one, I was looking forward to hearing, just because I know that's a really celebrated game. But I don't know, I feel like with some of the older systems, they have a certain sound to them, especially when it comes to the soundtrack. Like, you can tell when something's, on the NES, SNES. It wasn't really till the PlayStation 1 when that kind of went away. And even then, some systems like the N64 also kind of have their own, I guess it would be limitations that sort of, define their sound profile. And that was one of the things, like, I don't know, maybe Final Fantasy VI, it was all, remakes and that. I know they did that in a few games. Like, there were some songs in the Final Fantasy 1 group that I know definitely weren't capable on the NES. But if those are all from the original game, I mean, it sounds like a PlayStation 1 game. Like, you wouldn't even think Final Fantasy VI was on the SNES just hearing the soundtrack. Chrono Trigger wasn't that way. But not only that, but it's like, I like, the beats, the rhythm, whatever you want to call it. But it's like the actual sound from, I don't know if you would call it instruments or whatever, just wasn't meshing with me. It's certainly a soundtrack that I would like to, hear another interpretation of with a different sound profile. I don't know if that's the right term. I'm, once again, not a music expert by any means, but hopefully that makes some sense. Also weird, because I know I mentioned Triangle Strategy a little earlier too. I'm surprised that one's not here, because it does get pretty recent. Like I said, I don't remember when Triangle Strategy came out, but like I said, you had Stranger of Paradise, which was new, or you had Final Fantasy 16 as DLC. Although maybe, because I like tactical RPGs, maybe I think that was, a bit of a bigger title than it was, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, I would highly recommend this game, even if you're not into Final Fantasy. If you like rhythm games and you like sort of, medieval fantasy, the music you would see in those type of productions, there's a lot of content and a really good game here. And like I said, I think a lot of companies are kind of sleeping on this genre, as, important as music is to our culture. How everyone gets, really into it, and, playing instruments and that. And like I said, when it hits right, it hits right. I'm surprised this one didn't hit it bigger, but I think the potential is definitely there.